Now that we've covered all of the fundamental concepts and tools in JavaScript, let's focus on making our first program. Before we get started, if you find this video useful or if you have any questions, I would love to hang out with you. I stream on Twitch every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. You can also find me on Discord. The links for those are in the description down below. Now then, the first thing that I want to point out here is that this video is significantly less scripted than the previous videos in this playlist. The reason for this is because I want to realistically show how I go about solving a coding problem instead of just pre-scripting and copying and pasting everything. I feel like that would be a better learning experience for you doing it real time and thinking as we go. So with that in mind, I'm going to assume that you've installed Visual Studio Code, which you'll notice that I had recommended Visual Studio Code in one of the first videos in this playlist. If for some reason you're deciding to use a different IDE or going brave and trying this in Notepad or Notepad++, a lot of the same concepts and tools will apply. It's just you're going to have a little bit harder of a time, executing. However, if you would still like to install Visual Studio Code, I will leave a link in the description down below where you can get that, assuming you haven't done it already. So whenever you first open Visual Studio Code, you're going to see a screen very much like this. The color scheme may be a little bit different. If it's a fresh install for you, I just turned on dark mode. But what you should see is very similar to this. Also, your recent files will probably not show anything here. This is just previous work and hobbyist projects that I've been working on in Visual Studio Code before. So the first thing you're going to want to do is click New File right here, which should open up a new file. And before we start anything, the first thing you're going to want to do here is actually save the file in a place where you know you're going to be able to easily find it. So just as usual, a typical file and save as. Make sure that you know where you're saving your file. This is going to be important for you later. I just created a new folder in my documents folder just for this video, but you can save it wherever you want as long as you know where you're saving it. So you're going to want to change your file type to JavaScript. So you can hit this drop down right here, tap J twice, and you're going to see it's going to go to JavaScript right here. So you can name your file whatever you want, but since we are going to be recreating the file from the original video in the software entire curriculum, I guess you could say, I'm going to rename this or name this to mathsolver.js, since we're going to be making that program from that first video. And then hit save, and now we're ready to go. So as a reminder, the program from the very first video allowed us to solve the equation 2x plus 3y, plus 3y plus 4. Let me just fix this. One of the things you'll notice in Visual Studio Code is if you don't type directly after pressing the space, it's going to backspace for you. It's just one of the little oddities you'll find in Visual Studio Code. It's really not that big of a deal. I just type slowly as part of my disability. But however, anyway, what it did is allows us to solve the equation 2x plus 3y plus 4 for any positive number for x and y. Positive number for x and y. So this is the program that we are going to be recreating in this video. So there's a few ways that we can go about doing this. And what we're going to start off doing is we're going to start off with just solving for one set of x and y at a time, and then we're going to solve for multiple sets of x and y at a time, so that you can have this thing just run, constantly if you need it to. I say, well, maybe perhaps not constantly, but for as many sets of x and y as you need it to run for. So let's start off with a simple example. So if I were to solve a situation like this, I would say that this is the perfect situation for a function, so that you can just plug in any value for x and y, and the function will simply, churn out the numbers and then give you the result. So let's go with that idea first. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a function called solve math problem. Called solve. If I can type, one of the things that you'll notice the more you use software is your ability to spell drops dramatically. So we're going to create a function called solve math problem, and we're going to pass it two parameters, which would be x and y. So the next thing you're going to want to do is establish what happens whenever both x and y are positive, and then what happens if either x or y are negative. So what we can do here is we can either start off with the positive case, in which we say both x and y are positive numbers, or we can start with the failure case, in which we can say if either x or y are not positive. So I'm going to go with starting off saying yes, x and y are both positive. So we can say if x is greater than 0 and y is greater than 0. So if we meet both of those conditions, what we're going to do is we are going to print out the solution. We're just going to say console.log, console.log, .log. We're going to say the result of, sorry, we need this to be a string. So we want this to be the result of, and then so instead of just putting x, actually, so we could say if the result of x equals, and then add in the value of x. So this is going to show right here is it's just going to replace this x with the value of x that's passed into here. So the result of x equals the value of x, and then and y equals, and then plus the value of y. And then we can say is, and then we can actually apply the formula itself. However, we could make this a little bit easier on ourselves. So here's what we're going to do. We are going to create a constant, since we know that once we're done with this, that result is not going to change. So const result, if I could spell, const result is going to equal to, and if you'll remember from our working with numbers video, we can specify how we want our math to be resolved by having parentheses around the appropriate places. So what we're going to do here is we're going to say 2 times x, and then plus And then to make sure that we're, we're doing our math in the way that we want it to be done, we're going to say 3 times y, and then we're going to say plus 4. Oops, sorry, the plus 4. So then we can just say the result of this plus this is result. You'll notice I also forgot the word result right here. So the result of x equals the value of x and y equals the value of y is the result that we have provided up here. And then, yeah, so that should be that. So then we can say, all right, if either x or y is not greater than 0, we can say else. Okay, else we're just going to do a simple console.log and say either x or y is not positive. Please try again. Okay, so, and the way that we would run this function is to then just go below the function declaration and then simply call it. So we would come down here and we would say solve math problem. All right, solve math problem. I don't know why this isn't working. Solve math problem. And then we would pass in 2 values, one for x and one for y. So in this case, let's just go with, I don't know, 3 and 5. And then the way that we would run this is we would go up to here, we would say terminal up here, and then click new terminal. What this is going to do is this is going to allow us to actually run the program in the command line directly within Visual Studio Code. Now, if you'll recall, I was saying that it's going to be important to know where you saved your file. And that's going to be important right about now. So, in order to know where, how to get to your file, what you're going to need to do, especially if you're in Windows, is you're going to need to go to the folder that you saved your file in. And then you're going to come up here, see where it shows the file path up here. Just click this up here. And you're going to notice it highlights the entire path name right here. What you're going to do is Control-C, okay, on the file path right here. You're going to do this. And then go back to Visual Studio Code. And then you're going to go to the command line right here. And you're going to type cd, which is short for change directory in the command line. So you're going to do cd, and then you're going to do a quotation mark, and then Control-V to paste in your file path, and then another quotation mark, and then press enter. And that's going to put the command line into the folder that your file is saved within. Also, make sure that you save your file in Visual Studio Code, otherwise nothing's going to happen. So let's go up File, Save, or do a handy dandy Control-S. And the way that you're going to run the program is you're going to type in node, which this is why you needed to install Node.js at the beginning of this tutorial series. And if for some reason you have not installed Node.js I will leave a link in the description down below where you can get that. Just install the LTS version. It should be right in the middle of the page. So just type in node and then start typing in the file name that you have for your JavaScript file. In this case, it's going to be mathsolver.js, which you can do. You can just say math and then press the tab key. And that's going to, auto complete your file name for you. As long as you have enough letters in there that it can get a unique match for just those letters, it's going to auto-complete for you, which is nice. And the dot backslash right here is just to indicate that it's running within the same folder that you're within. So then all you have to do at this point is press enter, and then it's going to say the result of x equals 3 and y equals 5 is 25. And so since we have x and y are both positives, we know that we're going to end up with the first positive result in the if case right here. Now, let's try it again, but let's say that this 5 is a -5. So what we're going to do is we're going to come back down here to the command line. Also, I keep forgetting to do this. Make sure that you save. So if you want to run the last command that you ran in the command line again, all you have to do is press the up arrow. And it's just going to refill in the last command you put in. So let's press the up arrow and then press enter again. And it's going to say, either x or y is not positive, please try again, which is exactly what we wanted to happen because we said if x or y is not positive, we wanted to say we want to enter the else case, say either x or y is not positive, please try again, which is exactly what happened. So now that we have it working with a single value of x and y, let's modify this in order to show how we can make this work with a set of values for x and y. So the first thing that we're going to want to do is just drag this this terminal down. So you can just click this little divider here and just drag it all the way down like this, where not exactly all the way down, but where it disappears, just about like this. So you can still know that it's there, just drag it back up whenever you need to. So here's what we're going to do first. We're going to change the arguments that we're passing into the solve math problem function. And then we're going to observe how we need to change the solve math problem function in order to make the arguments passed into it work in the way that we expect. So what we're going to do is we're going to change this back. Actually, let's just get rid of this entirely. So instead of passing in just two numbers, what we're going to do is we're going to pass in two arrays. And if you remember, arrays are indicated by these square brackets. So this first array is going to indicate the number of x values, or the set of x values that we're going to pass in. And the second array is going to represent the set of y values that we're going to pass in. So what we're going to do here is we're going to pass in for x, we're going to say 1, 3, and 5. So, and then for the y values, we're going to pass in 2, 4, and 6. Oops. 2, 4, I don't know why I hit the parrot, 2, 4, and 6. So, what this means is we are going to run this function, the solve math problem function, 3 times. We want it to run 2 times 1 plus 3 times 2 plus 4. And then we want it to run 2 times 3 plus 3 times 4 plus 4. Then we want it to run 2 times 5 plus 3 times 6 plus 4. We want it to run in that order. So, first thing that we're going to need to do is we're going to need to change the, we don't have to, but just for clarity's sake, we can change the names for the x and y parameters to x set and y set. So, right. And then we want to add in an additional check because there is a possibility that you end up with a situation where you have, let's say, 4 values of x, but only 3 values of y. What happens then? If you get to the fourth value of x, there's no value of y to go against it. So in that case, the program will likely throw an error. So we want to check against that and then make sure that we have the correct numbers of x and y. So we have, say, 3 values of x and 3 values of y, or 5 values of x and 5 values of y. I think you see the point. So what we're going to do is first, we're going to say if x set dot length is the same as the y set dot length, then we can proceed as normal. However, if it doesn't, so we can say else, let's just go ahead and get rid of the else statement first. If we don't have the same number of x's and y's, we can just simply print out a statement saying that there are either too many x values or too many y values. Too many x values or too many y values. Please try again. Please try again. I don't know why my keys sometimes do that. Oh, come on. Please try again. I'm tempted to just leave it. Please try again. I promise I can type. So, however, if the x set length and the y set length are the same, meaning that there's the same number of values for x and the same number of values for y, then we can enter a loop. So we're going to use a for loop, which is perfect for a situation like this. So we're going to say, we're going to say we want the index variable to be named I, and then we want the index variable to be, as long as the index variable is less than the x set length, and this would work the same for the y set length, then since we know that they are both the same, as long as the index variable is less than the x set or y set length, then we want the loop to continue. And then once each iteration of the loop is done, we want it to iterate by 1, which is indicated by the ++. So then we're already almost done. So all we have to do is we have to take all that stuff that we did from before and then simply highlight it and then drag it into the loop. Okay, and then we're almost done. So all we have to do at this point is, sorry, I don't know why that happened. I think I clicked an error message just to show a warning message, I should say, for this const. But anyway, all we have to do is reassign, what these checks are that are being checked, and then the values that are being passed in, and then we should have everything ready to go. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna say there's the value of the current, if the current value is x, so the current value of x would be the x set at the element of I. So if I is 0, it's going to check x set 0. So if you remember, if you want to access each element of an array, you do the name of the array, which in this case is x set, and then square brackets, and then the number value of the array index that you want to check. And if you also recall, computers start counting at 0, so which is why we begin the index variable or the I variable at 0. And so this is going to check in the first iteration of the loop, it's going to check I equals 0, then it's going to check 1, and then 2. And then, so on and so forth for however many values of x and y are there. So if the x set at the current index is greater than 0, and the y set at the current index is greater than 0, then we're going to do the same thing that we did before. So all we have to do here is do the same thing that we just did. So, and then rename this to x set at I, and then y set at I. And then the same thing here. So the x set at I and the y set at I. And then that's it. All we have to do at this point is then test it. So if we did this correctly, we're going to get 3 different results. So and you're going to see the values of x and y in the appropriate positions as the program runs. So then just pull your command line back up, press the click in minute. As always, make sure you save. And come up here, put in the command line, press the up arrow, which will refill the last command, and press enter, which gives us exactly what we're looking for. So we're getting, as I said before, x equaling 1 and y equaling 2, and then the result of 22, and then x equaling 3, y equaling 4, and then, 12, and then 22, and then 32. So, which is exactly what we wanted to happen. Now, let's make sure that our else condition still works. So what we're going to want to do is we're going to change the 3 right here to a -3. And then we're going to, hopefully, if everything goes right, it's going to show the result of x equals 1 and y equals 2 is 12. And then it's going to show either x or y is not positive. Let's try again. And then it's going to show the result of x equals 5 and y equals 6 is 32. So make sure you save, and then do it again. And then that's exactly what we got, which is exactly what we intended to get. So let's also make sure that our other if-else condition works. So we're going to add in another value of x. So we have 4 values of x and 3 values of y. So make sure you save again. And then what we are expecting to happen is it to say there are too many values of X or too many values of Y. Please try again. That's what we're hoping happens. Which is exactly what happens right here. So there are too many values of X or too many values of Y. Let's try again. And then as we simply do this, get rid of this, and then save again, we should get the same result that we got the first time. Right? And then, which is exactly what happened. So, with that, we have made our first program. We have recreated the system that I showed in the very first video of this software series. So if you found this video useful, or if you have any questions, feel free to like and subscribe so you can be notified of future videos. If you have any questions, feel free to catch me on Twitch or Discord. So for future videos after this, we are going to be proceeding with videos similar to this. However, it's going to be much more relaxed, and we're going to be building different actual, programs that will hopefully get used by either myself and or other people, particularly in the Twitch community. I'm hoping to build tools and applications that will make both Twitch streamers and viewers' lives a bit easier. And we will be doing that live on Twitch. So if you want to see that live and hopefully participate, do join us on Twitch. But if not, you will see those videos eventually here as well. But in any case, thanks again for watching. I hope you got some value out of this, and stay awesome.